everyone, this is Payanna and welcome to my channel. Today's book is The Last Wish by Andrzei Sapkowski. I have had this book in my collection for the best part of 19 years, not 19 years, not that long, 15 years probably. I think I bought it in 2005 or 2006. I remember buying it. I bought it with the first book in the Trudy Canavan's Black Magician trilogy series and The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, and I adore Trudy Canavan, and The Name of the Wind is my favourite fantasy novel anywhere ever. So I don't know why I didn't read this one. I mean, I do that. I buy way more books than I could ever read in my life. I'm the very definition of bibliomania, and I don't know, it was always there, it was always around, I always it kind of just followed me around, and for some reason I just never got around to reading it. So given that now there's like this extraordinarily big hype around The Witcher, this is the first book in the Witcher series, and I thought, okay, you know what, I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna sit down and read this thing. And I was insanely disappointed. I know nothing about the Witcher series, or I've never played any video games. I haven't seen the series on Netflix. I knew nothing about this, apart from the occasional stuff that's been mentioned by the gamer community on YouTube. But I mean, I can't even say that I had high expectations, because my brain recently has been completely numbed out of its wits by an insane amount of young adult trashy romance fantasy novels that for some reason I've been peeling through recently. So honestly, I thought, and I really love them. That's the worst thing. I really loved all these trashy romance novels, like this one, A Curse So Dark and Lonely. Like, there was a lot of things wrong with it, but I still loved it. I still thought it was great. I thought the characters were great. And this, I honestly didn't think I could be disappointed by anything anymore, but this honestly surprised me. So usually when I'm talking about a book, I like to kind of summarise at least the first part of the story, but it's difficult to do that in this case because it's not a novel in like the proper sense of the term. It's more like a succession of stories. It's almost like a collection of short stories. It's a succession of events. And that was the first thing, well, not the first thing, but one of the things I didn't like about it is there's no kind of intrigue to it. And so yeah, anyway, we're introduced to this character called Geralt, who's the Witcher, and his job essentially is to kill monsters for money. He's paid to do this, and so he knows how to use magic, he's got these special swords, he's really good at fighting. And the first moment we're introduced to this character, he is having sex with a woman. A nondescript woman, okay. And then transition, he walks into a tavern and a guy comes up to him and tries to pick a fight with him because, oh, you're not from round here. Tries to swing a punch. Geralt whips out his sword and kills 3 people. So we are introduced to this character as a fornicating murderer. Brilliant. And so then, like, the guards come, they want to arrest him, they take him to the castle, he meets the king, who asks him to do a job for him. His daughter has some sort of curse or spell put on her where she's been turned into this monster, and she's living in a crypt, and she comes out at full moon and eats people, and he's asking Geralt not to kill her, but to try and break the spell so she can become human again. And they tell Geralt that a lot of people have tried before, this has been going on for 7 years, and wizards have come, other witches have come, and either they have been eaten or they have run away. And so Geralt is there, yeah, I'm going to do this. And at this point I was thinking, oh god, it's another Wellan. It's another Wellan from the Knights of Emerald series, and I hated that character. And that's honestly how I felt at the beginning of this book. I was like, it's another Wellan. It's just no. Given the way this princess monster creature has been described, I thought that the action of putting a stop to her spell was gonna take a lot more effort, honestly. I thought, okay, this is what the novel's about, trying to find a strategy to lure out this creature and break the spell. It's over by like 2 pages, and I was thinking, really? Like, that's how easy it was for you? Well, it's Wellan. It's definitely Wellan. And that was it. That was the end of that bit. Okay, and then we move on to the next bit, which is a rehash of Beauty and the Beast. And then the bit after that is a rehash of Snow White. And then the bit after that, you've got like a reference to Cinderella. So I have nothing against people reworking traditional fairy tales like in their own way, but I just thought that it was, all of these stories were just over so quickly that you didn't have time to kind of get involved with it in any way, and it was just, I just couldn't get into it. I didn't like Geralt, who's like the main character, the focal point, and it just all happens too fast to be able to get into anything. There's just nothing there, and there's no development of the fantasy world. You have like moments where he reels off these great big long lists of magical creatures without, but you don't actually get to see any of them, or not many of them, and with no explanation of what they were. And the only one that came up that I knew what it was the Lecce, which is, the only reason I know what a Lecce is because there's a Polish band called Old Lecce, a Polish black metal band, which I recommend. If you're into black metal, try that one out. But like, that was the only reason. It's a sort of forest deity kind of monster. And so I'm kind of guessing, because this is a Polish author, this book was originally published in Polish, so I kind of guess that he was writing these sort of creatures' names because they are a part of Polish folklore, and the audience this was originally aimed at were kind of supposed to already know what these creatures were. That was the only kind of way I found that made sense of that kind of absence of description. And even the descriptions in themselves are a bit odd, because there are like really long like pointless long descriptions, and then the things that you actually need a description for, like the magic system and the magical creatures, don't get anything. I just didn't understand Geralt as a character. He made no sense to me, and I didn't like him. He's not like Wellan. Like, as I read on, I realised he's not like Wellan from the Knights of Emerald. I don't think he's any better, to be honest, but he doesn't have the kind of really snobby, pretentious, I'm better than everyone else side of him. But it is put across in a subtle way that he is kind of supposed to be the best at what he does. And it's confusing because he is often asked to leave without coming back. And there's one scene where he's asked to leave this temple, and there's no real reason, he's just asked to leave. And there's another scene where he slaughters a bunch of people. I'll get to the slaughtering side of this character in a minute, but and again he's asked to like leave and never come back. And there's then later on another scene where he's at a court with a queen, and she's saying to him that, oh, I hear everyone singing your praises. So which one is it? Is everyone singing his praises, or is he being booted out wherever he goes? Because he doesn't seem liked at all. And understandably, he's a pretty violent, psychotic character. So yeah, like I say, he is presented to us as this murderer who, and like, why, and when he's in the tavern and he murders these three people, when he could have just punched them and knocked them out, or used, I don't know, clearly he was way bigger and stronger than they were. Like, why did he need to get out a 1.5 meter long sword and cut them up? Like, I don't understand that. And it's even, like, referred to by the king as, like, oh yeah, you killed these people to make a point. What point? What was he trying to do, apart from make everyone hate him, when, on one hand, they're supposed to sing his praises? So that made no sense at all. And even, like, later on, you've got, like I said, you've got the rehash of Snow White, who's become this kind of brigand character, and he has to stop her from carrying out some kind of terrorist attack, I think, and murdering this wizard character who doesn't seem like a very nice person, but okay. And there's this really kind of peculiar battle, and again, he's like fighting, I think, 7 people on his own, and they all get cut to pieces and bleed out on the pavement in front of a crowd. And even then I was thinking, was that really the best way to go about it? Like, surely there were other ways. Like, you've got guards, you've got, you know, this person who's supposed to be in charge of keeping everyone safe. Why didn't you get them involved? Why didn't you, I don't know. So, apart from, like, senseless violent slaughter, I didn't get that side of the character at all. I don't understand why he has to randomly murder people in order to prove a point, whatever that point may be. He also makes this big thing about defending the innocent from the monsters, which, again, given that he killed 3 innocent people in a tavern, who's protecting them from you? And then you've got the women in this book. And that annoyed me as well, because it's one thing to, like, try and be... Because, I mean, women have been treated appallingly throughout history, we know that. So it's one thing to portray them in this way with a character that says, oh, women shouldn't speak under my roof, they have no voice, and telling his wife to shut up. But you've also, like, this is another thing that I just found so odd about this story, is, like, between every single quest or job, maybe, that he has to do, I think he goes back to this temple, and I found this confusing, like, in the progression of the narrative. Is he going back to the temple in between every job, or is it like a different timeline? That was very confusing. I'm pretty sure he goes back there in between every job, which means he must do a hell of a lot of travelling, because he keeps going to different kingdoms, but okay. So this temple is like a nunnery, basically. It's like they're like nuns. That's how I saw them anyway, these priestesses, and they kind of pray to this sort of goddess of nature, and they look after women, they're midwives, and they're healers, and like, the reason, like, this is how I felt about this anyway, the reason for their existence in this story was just to say, oh look, I tried to give women a voice in this. I just thought it was pathetic, because apart from this insanely long rant that one of the priestesses does by, like, saying, I'm the high priestess and you respect me and this is my temple, you know, you don't have a voice here, I'm the one who makes the decisions, and I uphold women, and it's all about women and the women and the women, and that's it. It's just her ranting and raving about how women are important. I didn't understand the purpose of these people. I mean, I didn't read the book to the end, to be honest, so maybe this becomes clear in the end. I read about a bit more than half of it, I think. I gave up. I gave up because I just got to this point where, like, he's having dinner with this queen, and they have this such boring and pointless conversation where she's like, oh, I hired you to do a job, but I'm not going to explain to you exactly what it is. And then he says, oh, but you clearly don't understand what my job involves. And she's like, yes, I do. And he's, yes, I don't. And yes, I do. And this sort of back and forth, pointless 5 bloody pages of this. And I mean, Geralt makes a very kind of strong point of sticking to his job and nothing else. And I didn't really understand that either, because he doesn't want to be a mercenary. He's not a mercenary, he's not a contract killer, he is a witcher, and just a witcher. And I was like, why don't you branch out, dude? Because clearly he's short on cash. Like, clearly he's got issues doing his job and getting paid for it. He talks quite a lot about money. Who's paying for this? Will I get paid for this? How much? Which is understandable. That's his job. He wants to get paid for it. Fine. But why don't you branch out, dude? You clearly have the skills. So, I don't know. That didn't make sense to me. This kind of holding up, like, I'm a witcher. Which, again, is like, well, Anne, like, I'm better than you. You know? There were 2 things I liked about this book. And the first one was the Beauty and the Beast retelling. The character, the Beast character, I thought he was brilliant. I really thought he was brilliant. And up until that point, I was like, oh, this is boring. And then I got to him. And so Wellan is trying to find a creature that's been murdering people in this forest. And he finds this beast domain. The beast kind of runs out, roaring, get out of here, I'll kill you. And Geralt says, oh, really? And the beast says, well, okay. And they start talking. And the beast ends up inviting him into his home and telling him his story about how he had this spell put on him, and now he can control the house, he can make food appear, and how he pays poor families to essentially loan him a woman for a year, and how he treats them really well. Like, this was the only character that had any kind of good mindset about what women were, and considering the place where he started from, yeah. And he has this very kind of peculiar way of speaking. He's very forward. He's very, you know, yeah. I really like this character, and so he was good. The Beast character, he's called Nivellen, and I really liked him. I really liked this take on Beauty and the Beast. But a lot of that story didn't make sense. Not the Beast made complete sense, but the more of that, and I'm not going to go into all of it because I'll just end up ranting and raving for hours. But yeah, the Beast character, Nivellen, brilliant. And the second thing I liked was really stupid, which is just to tell you the kind of mindset I was in. Like I said, there was not a lot of description about the world and the magic system and all the kingdoms and everything. Yeah. But that when he's at there's this scene where he's at, like I said before, he's in this sort of banquet with the queen and all her court's there, and there's this character called Kudak, which is his nickname, and he's called that because when he laughs, he sounds like a chicken. That was the level I was working at when I got to this point. I was like, that's really funny, that's really good. And all the rest of it, boring. But that bit, yeah, there's a guy who laughs like a chicken, and Kudak is probably the Polish word for cock-a-doodle-doo or pluck or something. Yeah, it's a pathetic thing to find amusing. So, it's been a really long time since I came across a book that I just didn't like to this extent. And I think the last one was Matthias Malzia's Mermaid in Paris book. I mean, you know, if you enjoy, this is the first book in a series that is 8 books long, I think. So maybe it gets better later on. I don't know if this is Andrzei Sapkowski's first novel, but if it is, I can forgive some things, but the lack of logic in this character isn't one of them. If you like this novel, if you like this series, if you love this character, because again, millions of people do seem to, it's a massive, great big franchise now, The Witcher. So if you enjoy it, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. This is my personal opinion on this novel. I didn't think it was great, and I'm not gonna read the rest of the series because I really don't like this character. And so that was it. That was my thoughts on The Last Wish, the first book in the Witcher series by Andrzei Sapkowski. I hope you enjoyed this. I will see you all soon. Bye bye.